Hi, David Taylor or Mr Pelargonium here. Welcome back to the channel for a new video for the Pelargonium and Geranium Society. Very good to see you again. I'm sort of quite busy doing all sorts of things at the moment, so I'm not able to perhaps do quite as many videos as I normally do, but if anybody wants to see specific videos, say about cuttings or cutting back plants at this time of year, ready to bring them in to the greenhouse, just have a look back at some of the videos that I've done in the past, because there's plenty there to serve most purposes and things that you need to do. So just go back and have a look at those. I thought I'd make a quick video today. As I say, I'm still not able to edit as yet, but so I'm having to run through these relatively quickly to keep myself going and keep talking without having too many gaps. So I'll do the best I can. Now, I've just been reorganising. Now, most people can probably sort of see that I've always been saying that this lighter side of my glass house is where I want to ensure all my exhibition plants get put for this coming winter. And I'm more or less done now. I'm more or less reorganised. All the standards are down that end, down the back and down the duller side, the slightly darker side that happens during the winter because that corner is sheltered by our big garage. But yeah, really, realistically, now that I've done all that, I mean, it's just a question of concentrating on some of the sort of minor jobs that you need to keep your eye on when we're going into this sort of pre-winter period. It's the middle of October. I'm filming this on October the 17th, Sunday. And one of the main things that I'm doing with zonals, which of course in the UK, when we're getting the damp's really starting to kick in now with the much longer nights. We get a lot of condensation in the greenhouse. Haven't needed to have the heater on. It's not been cold, certainly in the south of England anyway. I think in the north over the last couple of nights it's been quite cold. I think they've had the first frosts up there, up in Scotland and the northern part of England in the last couple of days. But we haven't had anything like that in the south at all. It's been very mild, unusually warm, and I think even the forecast is saying it's going to be unusually warm during the day still in the next few days. So plants are still very much growing. They're still very green. They're still putting out a lot of sort of growth. We're getting the odd bloom, the odd zonal bloom poking through. But it's those now with the condensation and the fact that they just begin to sort of damp off very quickly. It's vital to get those off really now in a greenhouse situation as soon as possible. Otherwise they'll drop a rotting floret down onto your leaves. That'll then rot the leaf and that'll then potentially get into the stem and cause all kinds of problems. So you really have got to concentrate on what you're doing. And one easy way to avoid some of these problems, particularly with botrytis, which, as I say, is a real bane problem in the UK because of the damp, is stripping off leaves on zonals. And I've been doing that really over the last couple of weeks, getting rid of any heads. I'm taking these young heads off. This is a Floribunda plant. I'll close in a bit if I can. I'll just move the camera forward so that you can see what we're doing. I mean, it's probably things that I have covered in the past anyway. But the important thing is to ensure that you're getting some of these leaves off. Right, that's that homed in. Can't edit, as I've said. So realistically, if you've got any blooms, I'm just some of these are on very, very small stems. So I don't want to risk breaking the bloom off. That's actually going to break the little stem as well. So just give it a little helping hand with a little nick there, and that makes it easy. But if these blooms begin to damp off, they'll get down onto the leaves and they'll immediately start rotting everything on the plant. And it can be a real problem. So these blooms are all coming off now. They don't last a great length of time anyway. They do start to rot in the damp anyway. So I try to get them off as soon as possible now, particularly for my exhibition plants. But the other key thing, of course, as well, is to get the leaves off. You want to start getting a little bit of light down into these stems. So it's important to just strip a good number of this. Certainly anything yellowing. I mean, we've got a yellow leaf there. That immediately needs to come out because that's only going to do one thing, and that's rot back. So we need to get them out as soon as possible. Another slightly yellowing one there. And some of the big ones which cover up a lot of the stems, vital to strip some of those off as well. So I'm just sort of showing you the type of thing that I'm doing to all of my zonals at the moment. Now, in contrast, I'll just do an aside. Regals, I'll just pluck a regal out here. Regals, I find, don't tend to have the problems with botrytis that others do. There's a little smidge of whitefly on one or two things. One thing I will say is that we've had a whitefly has been nuts. If I've been going outside, the amount of whitefly that's been flying about, I think it's purely to do with it's been so mild in the south of England. And the whitefly is just travelling about outside as if it's, you know, a free-for-all. And I've had one or two little bits come in. They're easily rubbed off. There's one there. Not a problem under there. There's no eggs. You can usually see the eggs quite easily. But I never tend to get a problem with botrytis on regals. The only time you might is if you do get a bit of whitefly that produces a little bit of sort of honeydew, and then you will get the rotting, the botrytis. But I find regals, they grow very fast, of course, during the winter. You know, they generally get through the sort of, if you like, the botrytis type with not too many problems. But the key thing is to continue to check them over. If they're not growing very fast, certainly give them a check over. And just ensure that, you know, there's no problems with botrytis on the stems in particular. But I never find I suffer from it too much with regals in the winter. So I've taken a few leaves off there, but that's really all I'm doing with the regals because mine do tend to grow very fast. But zonals, on the other hand, are a different kettle of fish. They're obviously growing slower, and botrytis is attracted to that lovely sort of slightly woolly stem that the zonals have, and it sort of leaches on, and it can cause you all kinds of problems. But opening out the plant, such as this, taking off a number of the leaves will all grow back, of course. Is very, very important because it allows air to circulate around the plant, and, you know, will assist to keep the botrytis at bay. Once we get the heater going and some ventilation, I mean, I'm still fully opening up because the weather's been so fine. Even on dry days, on cold days in the winter, my glass house gets fully opened up. So, you know, it gets plenty of ventilation, but only when the really cold weather starts is when I maybe have to think about whether I'm going to open up during the day. But to be honest, in the south of England, we don't often get it that cold, but do get periods of cold weather like that during the winter, but not too often. So here we are. I'm just continuing to strip off any yellowing leaves, get rid of the blooms, just to open it up so that I can begin to see the stems. Now this is quite dense, this plant, so I'm going to have to do quite a bit of work on it. So I'm not going to be able to show you without being able to edit, I'm not going to be able to show you all of the stripping down I'm doing here, but I have done them in the past. If you look back, say a year to last year with me doing the leaf stripping, you'll see some completed plants that I've stripped back. I'm just trying to think whether I have got any here that I've done. I should have plenty actually. So let's just go over here. Let's just have a look at this one. Here's a dwarf zonal that I've done. So this was stripped back and it's now pretty open. I try to go down quite deep with the leaf stripping, and it basically allows air to get all around these stems, and you shouldn't then have too much problem with botrytis during the winter. Right, put that back. I'm going to move the camera back now so you can see full view again. Right, so there we are. As I say, I'm trying to do that. I haven't got a script today, so I'm trying to do it off script. I will have a sip of me coffee. Now, all of my plants now, I've potted my final 2 exhibition plants in their final pots. They were quite late because I staged them up. They went up from when I repotted them, is the example, I actually repotted them down into a 4-inch pot. I then potted them up to an interim 5, and that's now gone up to a 6, which is its final pot. And they are now all done. I've always said that I like to get all of my exhibition plants in their final pot, well, realistically no later than September, but what I say, I've done a couple in early part of October this year, purely down to the fact that I had to cut them back hard and I didn't want to overpot them initially, but they're all done now, so everything's ready. Nothing else will be potted on. All my standards are now in their final pot, and I think that's just sort of about it really. Get 1 or 2, I mean on 1 or 2 of my, what I call my dwarf standards, there's still a few there, yellowing leaves, so we can strip them off. Not many on that one. That's one of my Shrivenham stars, which is so tight, it's taking an age to get up. But I am developing a fairly decent stem on that now, thankfully. I'll take you for a very small whiz round, just to show you all my standards. And because of the fact that everything is realistically, it's been so mild, the weather's been so warm this autumn, I've got quite a bit of flower. I have let a bit of flower go, particularly on the standards where I can easily get to them to cut them off. Very impressed with that Tinto Mara, one of the Adenjo series. They're from Sweden. That's looking lovely. That's grown. They've grown very fast. Everything's doing well. Of course, we got some yellowing leaves now on the stems, on the stems there, and I'll just begin to strip them off, because you can see in the head here that now is sort of fully developing, and I'm more than happy with that. So these yellowing leaves can be stripped off. Got no problem now. There's certainly enough in the head to keep the standard happy and keep it going. But there we are. There's all my other standards on the left-hand side, all growing away quite happily, more or less in their own position. I've got that gap there. That's just where that other one that we were working on a moment ago comes from. But all of these plants now on this bench are all exhibition plants. I've probably got far too many young plants. That's one of the problems that I've got. And it's really finding a home for some of these is a nightmare, because I've used up so much room. Got little bits of extra space and table that I've made. But yeah, it's that same old problem. You know, we never have enough room. But as I said, I'm hopeful now that my exhibition plants on this left-hand side are going to be fine. I've got some lovely potted regals over this side. They're all fine, they're all quite happy, a couple of centids as well. No problem at all, they're all quite happy to just sit there and grow on through the winter. But obviously this end where I've got those, and I will keep the regals up that end of my exhibition bench, is the coldest part of the glasshouse. The only thing I still need to move is my huge Sophie Dumaresque standard. That's going to come to here, and I've still not done that. You can see the gap where I've got a place for it. But because it's been so mild, I've not had to worry really about moving it yet. Yeah, so there we are. Our big stand, you remember potting this up, going back in time. This is developing really well. The one minor problem is that I've got a reverted stem on it. And I'm not too concerned about that at the moment. I mean, we'll have to see how it develops, but it is a little bit of a shame. It's got the old spots and splashes. I'll just focus that, hang on a sec. The old spots and splashes on the bloom. But yeah, I've got a reverted stem that's gone to the solid mauve, but it's one of those things that's, you know, we can't do anything about that. So there we go. That one there, that lovely tricolour Stella, again, it's one of Steve Pollard's seedlings. I just need to get a taller stick on that to pull that to make the length stand up. And there's a few, here's another one. Autumn, of course, perfect time for tricolours. They look fantastic at this time of year because they're not getting stressed from the bright sun. Sun now is getting much lower and much weaker. And that needs a new stick in it just to pull it up as well. So a couple of jobs to keep me going over the next couple of weeks before things begin to really quieten down as we get into November. November, of course, always the what we call the sort of nightmare month for pelargonium growers in the UK, because it's the month where we get loads and loads of generally quite damp, horrible weather that realistically never ever sort of seems to go even during the day. So there we are, that's it for today. Quick look round and a few tips, particularly with leaf stripping. It's something you need to do if you're in the UK. It's something you'll have to look at doing if you've got a glass house now. With all the condensation that's going on. It's raining at the moment, that's why the glass house is closed up. It's meant to be drying up this afternoon. But that's it. That's a few tips for now, middle of October. It's only going to get worse. It's only going to go one way now as we head towards winter, colder, damper. And so, you know, it's a question of going around, keeping an eye on the plants and seeing, and just making sure you keep them clean. That's the main thing that you need to do. So thanks for viewing. Please subscribe and pass on to your friends, and maybe give a nod to the channel to anybody that may not be subscribed at the moment. But in the meantime, thanks for watching, and I'll see you again soon.